sorry to say that I must begin tonight's meeting with some sad news. Many of you will already know of the sad news that two former members, Councillors Bill Caithness and Councillor Paul Richardson, have passed away since our last meeting. Can I please ask that everyone stands and joins me in a minute's silence to remember them both? Everyone, please be seated. First item on the agenda this evening is questions from members of the public. There are 5 valid questions have been received from members of the public to ask this meeting. We allow 30 minutes for questions from the members of the public, 5 minutes for each question in attendance, and we'll have the opportunity to ask a supplementary question, and we'll have 1 minute to ask the supplementary question. The person responding has 5 minutes to reply to the initial question and 2 minutes to reply to any supplementary question. Any supplementary questions must arise out of the substantive question or the reply. So I have question 1 from Mr. Latham. Is Mr. Latham in attendance? No. So can we please take that question as read? And I believe Councillor Johnson, you're responding to this.
Thank you, Chair. Following the allocation of land at Merton for housing in the local plan in 2017, Storey Homes are making good progress delivering the first 300 homes, including 78 affordable homes at Robinson Fields. I do recognise the local plan makes provision for around 3,000 new homes on Merton, and I appreciate that residents are keen to understand when the remaining homes may be delivered. I can confirm the plan application was submitted for Persimmon Homes for 2,700 homes in February 23, and this remains under consideration. We'd appreciate the role of the authorities, the local planning authorities, a statutory one, over which we have no control as elected members. Planning officers are working hard to ensure the proposed development is compliant with the master plan adopted in 2017, and the development responds to the relevant planning issues raised by the statutory and local consultees and residents to ensure that is of quality as expected. A range of issues balance up design, environmental impacts, highway and public transport impacts, as well as development viability, among others. Once plans are ready for a comprehensive report and recommendation, the application will be presented to the Planning Committee for determination.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. As Mr. Latham isn't in attendance, we will move on to question 2. This is from Ms. Bowen. Is Ms. Bowen in attendance? Yes. Would you like to step forward and ask a question? You can either ask the question or you can just take it as read. It's up to you. Have you turned?
Hello, is that good?
Yes, that's better. I can hear you now. Thanks.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. In 2019, this council declared a climate emergency and set out targets to help tackle the crisis. But in the UK, even if we stopped using all fossil fuels, our food emissions would go beyond the 1.5 degree limit. Basically, animal agriculture is incredibly inefficient. 83% of farmland worldwide is used to raise or feed farm animals, but this only supplies 18% of our calories. An Oxford University study found that plant-based diets resulted in 75% less greenhouse gas emissions, water pollution, and land use. We could return around 3/4 of agricultural land to nature. Britain's lost more of its natural biodiversity than almost anywhere else in Western Europe. Your carbon net zero action plan is ambitious, but it lacks real emphasis on food. Page 13 states the authority provides a range of healthy balanced meal options in schools and operational buildings, which includes non-meat options. But can you go further and endorse the plant-based treaty? Several councils have already signed up: Edinburgh, Norwich, Lambeth, Exmouth, Haywards Heath, Belfast, and they've started real actions. Here are 4 simple examples: carbon labelling in school canteens, plant-based cookery workshops for caterers, promoting veganuary, fruit and veg vouchers for low-income communities. In terms of health, a study last year found out that cutting meat from weekday lunches alone could prevent hundreds of thousands of cases of heart disease. And increasing plant-based options helps us all eat more fruit and veg. In 2018, only 18% of UK children were eating 5 portions a day.
Just to sum up your
Will
question,
this council
you have
really
limited time,
confront
so
our climate and health crises by endorsing the plant-based treaty? Thank you.
thanks a lot. Councillor Graham, I believe you're responding to this.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for your question, Ms Bourne. I'm very proud of the Council's Carbon Net Zero 2030 Action Plan and the positive results this is producing. The actions we have taken have helped us to be awarded A grade in last year's assessment by the Carbon Disclosure Project, placing us alongside cities such as New York, Tokyo, London, Barcelona, Paris and Sydney. Additionally, the Council has won first prize in the category of Best Local Authority at the North East Energy Efficiency Awards 2 years running, and went on to finish in second place at the National Awards last year. The Council totally recognises the impact that sustainable food policies can have on carbon emissions, including the growth, the transport and disposal of food. We do promote, as you've said, low carbon food choices and provide advice and behavioural change to residents and the wider community to reduce food waste, and we are preparing for the introduction of separate food waste collections from households starting in 2026. We provide a range of healthy, balanced meal options in our offices and operational buildings, which include non-meat options. We manage 1,200 allotment plots, enabling residents to grow their own healthy, sustainable produce. In November 2022, we adopted the Healthy Weight Declaration, which recognises that healthy and sustainable food systems and environments promote food and nutrition security and healthy diets, whilst limiting negative environmental impact. The North Tyneside Strategic Food Plan was recently agreed at the North Tyneside Health and Wellbeing Board, the focus of which includes access to healthy, desirable and nutritious food, and encouraging sustainable food choices and food waste minimisation. A key principle within the plant-based treaty is around reforestation, and I am very proud of our work in this area. Since 2021, when we helped to establish the North East Community Forest, we have created 25 hectares of urban woodland and canopy cover and planted over 13,000 trees. This work is ongoing and to be followed by community orchards. Finally, I'm pleased to tell you that a refresh of our Carbon Net Zero Action Plan will be considered by Cabinet on Monday, the 29th of July. We fully recognise the important issue of food in our work towards a carbon net zero future, and though we are not signing up to the plant-based treaty, our work in this field will continue, and our refreshed action plan includes a number of actions and case studies on improving the sustainability of our food. Thank you once again for your question.
Councillor Graham, Ms. Bourne, do you have a supplementary question?
Just a very quick one, if you don't mind. Thank you so much for that very thorough response. Supporting the plant-based treaty, I understand, is something you don't want to do at this time, but it's a very loud and proud way to show that you care about the climate. The organisation also very hands-on in terms of helping set up the motion, helping with promotion, and it's something that the council can be very proud of and potentially include in their next carbon net zero action plan. And I'd be very happy to talk to anyone here in the future if they wanted to talk further about how it may be incorporated into the next version. Possibly not this one, seeing as it's being completed in the next few days, but after that.
So Graham, would you like to?
I'm not sure there's a question there, but we shall always look at our food production and how we deal with food within the borough. And this is an ongoing piece of work, along with all the other things to do with transport and heat and light and everything that we do. Thank you.
Thank you very
Graham.
much. Thank you.
Move on to question 3 from Ms. Kinney. Ms. Kinney in attendance? Yes. You can either ask your question or you can take it as read. It's up to you.
I'll read the question, thank you. Just it says here, following what was meant to be a temporary move by the Queen Alexandra Sixth Form College and its subsequent ending of sixth form provision, when will a sixth form reopen in North Shields to replace the lost provision, given John Spence, Marden and Norham High Schools do not have sixth forms?
So Phillips, I believe you're responding.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Thanks for the question, Ms. Kinney. We are absolutely committed to returning sixth form provision to North Shields. In autumn 2023, a member working group supported me as cabinet member to examine options for sixth form provision for North Shields. That reported to cabinet on the 19th of February 24. The policy position of the mayor and cabinet is that sixth form provision should be added to the John Spence Community High School. However, this is a matter for the school, the Academy Trust and the DFE. The Mayor and Cabinet have committed to working alongside all three to make this happen, but the process is lengthy.
So Phillips, do you have a further supplementary question on that?
I think for me it would be around time frame, because this provision ended in around July 2020 in the North Shields area. So there's already been 4 years of a sixth form provision. I feel the children in the area are obviously at disadvantage. There'll be families who could struggle probably to send their children to sixth forms, having to travel a much further distance. And I think something in the area that's more sustainable, where people can walk to, cycle to, for example, and not incur extra cost, and have a full curriculum, you know, in a more timely way would be appreciated. So some time frame would be appreciated, please.
Thank you for that. Absolutely agree with you. The quicker the better. Unfortunately, we are in a position where we've got little say over the time scale, the time frame, but we will be working with the three mentioned, the school, the Academy Trust and the DFE. We will be encouraging them to make this as speedy as possible.
Thank you very much for your question.
Thank you.
Move on to question 4 from Mr. Rides. Is Mr. Rides in attendance? Yes. Like to ask your question or take it as read. It's up to you.
It won't take more than a couple of seconds. It's simply that given the incoming government commitment to doubling the size of the cooperative sector nationally, what actions are planned by North Tyneside Council to achieve this goal locally?
Councillor Johnson, you're responding.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Wright. I think it's been only 2 short weeks since the Landside Labour government were elected, so having firm plans. Most of the plans I'm going to talk about, I think we've already had in place. But obviously, as the government does develop and bring more policies out, we will indeed have more to say. But as we already do, North Tyneside Council delivering a programme to support the growth and development of diverse business, community, cooperative and mutual sector. The business factory is the council's support service, works closely with business across North Tyneside, not to help them start up, set up and grow. Includes a clear focus on supporting social enterprises, cooperatives and mutuals, with a tailored programme dedicated to encouraging mission-led businesses to start up and grow in the borough. This programme is delivered by specialist partners on the council's behalf, Junction Point, and they provide one-to-one support and access to consultancy to help navigate its business models, set up the requirements and solutions to barriers to growth. Business Factory is also about to launch a small grant programme for startups, will include an offer to social enterprises and cooperatives. The North East Combined Authority are delivering specialist support, including a financial vehicle and a flexible social finance option is open to eligible businesses with the aim of providing access to affordable and flexible repayable finance for socially trading organisations looking to grow their social impacts and improve self-sustainability. Investments are available from £50,000 to £400,000 and repayable 1 to 5 years. We've also worked with Order in the northwest of the borough with 1.5 million for community and voluntary organisations up there. Also looking at access to finance for from businesses and cooperatives. So the North East Fund as a suite of different financing models for a range of SMEs. The last 6 years, investing £152 million in that as part of the combined authority. Past delivery is currently being evaluated to help inform access to finance vehicles moving forward, and cooperative finance will form part of these considerations. North Denston Council is committed to the development and inclusive economic strategy, that the journey of growth reaches all residents of the borough. The ambitions set out in the Council's inclusive economic strategy. To complement and develop the thinking, the Council developed a business engagement strategy and economic strategy that will set out a vision for inclusive growth in the borough. Now, this will set out how business support efforts to continue with focus on supporting the mission-led businesses and how this may be amplified to improve and increase support of cooperatives and mutuals in line with the new government's pledge. The economic strategy will also include how cooperatives can link with net zero plans, poverty prevention programs, affordable housing, and social care provision. So yeah, just again, while we already have lots of stuff in the works for that anyway, so it has only been 2 short weeks since the government were elected, so there's nothing directly from the government yet. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Johnson. Mr. Wright, do you have a supplementary question?
The response to me seemed like a very general picture of conventional business support. The question was specifically about doubling the size of the cooperative sector within North Tyneside.
Yeah, and I think I opened the response to saying it's been 2 weeks since the government were elected, so it will take us more time to bring these plans into place. 2 weeks is not a very long time to bring these plans. Lots of people on this side are members of the Cooperative Party, committed to cooperatives, members of cooperatives as well. So we will work to improve doubling the size of the cooperative sector as we have done in the past, and will continue to do so in the future.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wright. As Ms. Pearson isn't in attendance this evening because she's unable to attend, we'll just move on to the next item on the agenda. Oh, sorry. So we'll take the question as read. The first part of the question is read. And I believe Councillor Hannah Johnson is responding.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for your question.
Yes, if you can move the mic a bit closer so people in the back can hear it.
I think hopefully that's a little bit better. Thank you for your questions, Pearson. We are extremely proud of our award-winning coastline and beaches along the beach, including the beaching facilities at Cullercoats. Since 2017, we have been working alongside Northumbrian Water and the Environment Agency to investigate the water quality concerns at Cullercoats. Northumbrian Water have undertaken investigations into their own assets and carried out improvement works identified as part of this process. A significant amount of work has been carried out on both privately owned sites and public spaces to try and identify the source of the pollution. This includes investigating and rectifying any pipework connections and possible pollution pathways, the resealings of gullies, and the historic water culvert has been capped off and rediverted. The Environment Agency is responsible for monitoring and assessing and classifying bathing water. Investigations and works carried out to date is pointing towards contaminated groundwater as the primary cause for concern. The source of contamination is yet to be identified. However, I can assure residents and Ms. Pearson that we will continue to work alongside Northumbrian Water and the Environment Agency on this important issue. Cullercoats remains a thriving and wonderful beach for locals and visitors to enjoy, with fantastic facilities in and around the beach area, and we remain committed to doing all that we can to support the process until the water quality matches our aspirations. Thank you again for your question.
Councillor Johnson. There we go. Move on to the next item, which is apologies. I have received apologies from councillors Tom Bailey, Janet Hunter, Liz McMullen, Joe Kerwin, Sarah Burtonshaw, and Sarah Day. Are there any other apologies for tonight, please? Sir Bones?
And Councillor McGinty, Chair.
Further? That. Now move to next item, a declaration of interests. Can I remind all members, if they have any registrable and or non-registrable interests in matters appearing on the agenda this evening, and the nature of they must declare them in the nature of the interest. They must verbally declare in respect of any items business to be discussed in this meeting and the nature of such interests. You are also invited to disclose any dispensations from the requirement to declare any registrable and or non-registrable interests that have been granted to you in respect of any matters appearing on tonight's agenda. Those members should also complete the card which has been circulated and return it to the receptacle located on the desk of the Democratic Services Officer before leaving tonight's meeting. Yes, Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. Can I declare I've got an interest in motion 1? My 3 oldest children attend that school, so I'll be leaving the meeting during that motion.
Okay, thank you for that. Anybody else? Item 4 are the minutes of the previous meeting. Can I ask that those minutes be agreed, please? Item 5 moves on to motions. We have 5 valid motions have been received and are detailed on the agenda. Please note details of the legal and financial implications of each of the motions have been circulated to all members prior to this meeting. I would like to remind members that the electronic voting system is available and will be used. We move on to motion 1, which is signed by Councillor Johnson, McAlpine, McGinty, Bartoli, J, Bartoli, L, and Councillor Scargill. Can I invite Councillor Bones to move the motion, please?
Thank you, Chair. Over the past few months, officers have worked incredibly hard to secure temporary arrangements, keeping as many of our children in education as possible. This work, however, has placed an enormous strain on budgets within the authority. We have brought this motion this evening in an attempt to demonstrate clear cross-party agreement on this issue. We believe that the DfE should step in and cover the funding gap so young people across the borough aren't impacted by the reallocation of funds to cover this emergency. We also ask that the Cabinet member provides regular updates to each meeting of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee that will allow members to keep a close eye on the situation and in particular reassure them regarding the enormous pressure on the finances which these events have caused. We have specifically tried to be non-partisan in this motion as the future of our children's education in North Tyneside isn't something that should be used as a political football. We hope all members can support it. Thank you, Chair.
Do you have a seconder for the motion?
I'll second the motion. Chair can reserve the right to speak.
Good, Councillor Lee. It's there. Oh, yes.
I'd like to move an amendment, please. I think it's been sent through to the officers.
Has the amendment been circulated or is it? Okay, so we have a seconder for the motion as well, while that's been circulated. Councillor Bones.
Can I please move a motion without notice to adjourn the meeting while the disruption in the gallery is resolved?
All right. Yeah, is that seconded? Oh, yes, that's seconded. Right. Can we defer the meeting for 10 minutes just till the public gallery is cleared, please? Okay, thank you very much. we know that the meeting has been adjourned as some members felt that the demonstration was distracting from the proper business of the meeting. I request that those who are demonstrating lower their placards and sit down, and they are very welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, provided they do not cause or make any further disturbances. If they do not do this, unfortunately, we'll have to distract the meeting further. I will have to ask them to leave the chamber tonight. So hopefully we can move forward now. Yes.
Chairman, I'm sorry, I can hardly hear what you're saying, what's going on at the back.
Basically, well, the people in they've already sat down, so hopefully we can move on with the business of the meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, so if everybody is happy with where we are now, we can move forward with the rest of the agenda of the meeting. Wherever I was up to. I think just, Councillor Johnson, you were moving an amendment for.
Councillor Phillips moved the amendment. I'll second it and reserve the right to speak. Don't think Councillor Phillips has yet moved his amendment yet.
So where we do, Councillor Phillips is moving the amendment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Just make sure everyone can hear us. Right, okay, yes, I'd like to move this amendment. The basic spirit of the motion we're absolutely happy with, but I just thought it would be important to add a few extra lines just for accuracy. So part of this amendment alludes to the fact that this problem came to light last December, which is obviously 8 months ago. So I know there was comments made about not wanting to make this a political football, but it is worth noting that you've had 8 months to bring this amendment, this motion, and you've chosen not to. So I was a bit surprised at that. This side of the chamber has always been willing to contact government via letters or whatever, because as far as we're concerned, we're here to look after the residents that are elected and we're not here to look after whatever government happens to be in place. So I'm a bit surprised that the Tories opposite are all of a sudden into writing letters, because I've spent 6 years that I've been here saying that we can't write to government and that it's up to us to sort things out. So I'm a bit surprised, but very happy with your change of tact, because I do think it's important. I think it's also really important that we've got that bit in there about council notes that the Mayor has already written to the new Secretary of State, as well as the 4 MPs who were recently elected. So we haven't been dithering, we've been reacting to this all the way since December, and not just because things have changed a little bit in the last 2 weeks. So basically, I just thought it was important that this amendment clearly states what we've already done, and that it's made really, really clear that for the past 8 months, we have been in touch with the government and we've been in touch with the DFE, and we've been asking for the money to sort this problem out. But the previous Conservative government has point blank refused to do that for the past 8 months. So we will continue to move forward with trying to ask the new government to do this, but it's really important that you realise that we've already been doing this, and I'll leave it at that, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody who wishes to comment on that amendment? Sutherland.
Thank you, Chair. My comments were intended, and possibly still are intended, to be apolitical, even with this amendment. And I would like to start by commending the Cabinet member and his officers for the quick response to identifying how many schools with the same structural problems as Fordley Primary School has, and also the plans immediately put in place to mitigate the effects on the education of our pupils. Timescale for repairs and refurbishment will not be short, so it's also good to see contingency plans are in place to enable, in as much as it is possible, the school communities to come together for the beginning of the new school year. The council officers and the Cabinet member have moved very quickly to put these into place, and they need to be commended for that. Obviously, the long-term goal is to undertake remedial work which will fix the school buildings, Now, this work will not come cheap, and therefore it is not feasible for this cost to come from the school's budget. But can I remind members that there is precedent for engaging with central government to obtain extra funding for schools in the borough. The previous government allocated funds for new builds at Longbenton High School, Marden High School, John Spence High School, Whitley Bay High School, White House Primary School, and a complete refurbishment of Cullercoats Primary School. So there has been a significant extra spending on schools in North Tyneside. This motion asks the Mayor to continue having conversations with central government to attempt a quick resolution, the quickest possible resolution of the problems with these schools. That is the gist of the motion. I can't comment on any past meetings because obviously I wasn't at any past meetings, but what we need to do is to get these buildings back into operation as quickly as possible. And I think we need this engagement to go forward. I had hoped that all of the councillors present would support our original motion. Thank you, Chair.
So, are there any further comments? Scogan.
Can I just add, can I just add as well, it would be good if we could see a copy of the letter and the response from the new Secretary of State. Up until this point, I was actually under the impression that the Mayor required permission from full council to write to the government, so it's good to see her taking some initiative. Thank you.
Okay, if there are no further comments, can we go to the vote?
So,
on the
so I get the right to reply, Don?
Sorry. Yes.
Thank you, Chair. Just to respond to a couple of Councillor Phillips' points in moving this amendment, I think we're very disappointed that there has been an attempt to make this into a partisan motion, which we tried very hard not to make it. He's incorrect when he says that 8 months ago, that this has been going on for 8 months and we could have brought it to a different meeting. That is not the case. The surveyor's report came in from Fordley Primary School after the deadline for motions in March. There has not been an opportunity since March to bring a motion to full council. This is the first opportunity to do so, which is exactly why we've done it. I also take issue with the idea that the previous Conservative government refused to provide funding in either temporary or long term. There wasn't a refusal, there was ongoing conversations, obviously deeply affected by the calling of a general election 6 to 8 weeks ago, but there were ongoing conversations. There wasn't an outright refusal, so we do refute that. We won't be supporting the amendment. And the final point I would make is that council notes the Mayor has already written. The Mayor may well have already written. I'm not disputing that for a second. What the point we were making was that with the backing of this motion, supported by every member in this chamber, hopefully, the Mayor would have written again to show that political strength of feeling. And that was the reason we brought this motion in a non-political way, so we could have the support of the whole chamber on it. And the Mayor could then go to the new Secretary of State with that backing. That was the very reason we brought the motion. So I don't think amending it to say that the Mayor's already written and therefore doesn't need to write again, I think that completely undermines the reason for the initial motion. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, can we now move to the vote on the amended motion, please? All those in favour, please vote.
Vote is closing. Please close the vote.
Okay, that vote is carried 42 for, 1 abstention and 7 against. So we now move, that becomes a substantive motion. Are there any comments anybody would like to make on a substantive motion? Okay, the original mover now has, Councillor Phillips, you have the right to reply as the mover of the new substantive motion.
Thank you, Chair. Pretty much summed up in the original speech. Basically, I'm quite happy that the gist of everything that the Tories want me to do is happening. We've just put a few extra points in just to make sure that it's factually correct. So I'm quite happy to table this with the amendments. Thank you.
And we'll move to the vote now on the substantive motion. All those in favour, please vote. Oh, vote now.
Vote is now open. Close the vote now. Please close the vote.
Okay, the result of that vote is yes, 52, abstain none, against none. So that is now carried. Thank you. And we now move to motion number 2, please. I believe Councillor Bartoli, you are moving this.
Chair. This motion reflects concerns regarding the safety of our residents in Tynemouth, specifically focusing on the recently installed floating bus stop and cycling infrastructure. A floating bus stop is a type of bus stop that allows buses to stop at a shelter situated on a pedestrian island separated from the main pavement by a cycle lane. This design enables cyclists to continue riding without having to navigate around stationary buses, thereby reducing conflicts between buses and bicycles on shared roadways. However, this layout requires pedestrians, including those who are blind or visually impaired, to cross the cycle lane to reach the bus. The floating bus stop aims to enhance cycling safety, but necessitates careful planning to ensure it does not compromise pedestrian safety. Reports from sources such as BBC News and Evening Standards have documented numerous incidents where pedestrians, particularly those who are blind or visually impaired, have been placed in harm's way. Advocacy groups like Age UK London and Disability Rights UK have pointed out these risks, and some incidents have resulted in pedestrians being knocked over by cyclists. Such occurrences underscore the need for caution and thorough consideration before implementing similar designs in our area. In Tynemouth, we've already installed a floating bus stop as part of the new cycle path. And as a resident who walks along this path daily as part of my dog walking route, I have seen near misses in person. While the promotion of cycling and sustainable transport is vital, we cannot allow it to compromise pedestrian safety. We must heed the lessons learned from other cities and ensure that our infrastructure is safe for all, especially our most vulnerable residents. Additionally, there have been several reports of near misses between cyclists and vehicles at the newly designed junction at the top of the south ramp to Longsands. These reports highlight the need for a cautious and well-informed approach to infrastructure development. To address these concerns, our motion requests several key actions. Firstly, we propose relocating one of the council's existing mobile CCTV cameras to the site of the new floating bus stop in Tynemouth. This will enable us to monitor its impact on pedestrians, cyclists, and overall safety. Monitoring will provide us with valuable data to make informed decisions about the future of such infrastructure. Secondly, we would like a thorough review of the junction at the top of the south ramp of Longsands, which has had several near misses involving cyclists and cars. Once this review is complete, we ask that the Cabinet member provide a report to Overview and Scrutiny Committee, and this will ensure transparency and allow for any necessary adjustments to be made to improve safety. Thirdly, it's essential to actively engage with local groups, especially those representing blind and visually impaired residents, to gather their comments and feedback on the new bus stop design. Their insights will be crucial in assessing the impact of the current installation and ensuring that future projects prioritise the needs and safety of all residents. And finally, we propose a pause on the construction of any further floating bus stops until an assessment of the current installation's impact is completed. This ensures a cautious and well-informed approach to public transport infrastructure development. This motion is not about hindering progress or opposing cycling initiatives. It's about ensuring that our infrastructure is safe and considerate of all users. By adopting this motion, we will demonstrate our commitment to the safety and well-being of our community, learning from the experiences of others and taking proactive steps to avoid potential hazards. I urge my fellow council members to support this motion and take the necessary steps to protect our residents. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor O'Toole, you have a second for that?
Second and reserve the right to speak.
Councillor Hannah Johnson.
Thanks, Chair. I'd like to move an amendment. I believe legal's already put it. Give people a minute to just read through it.
Okay, Councillor Johnson, if you'd like to move your amendment now.
Yeah, thank you. Essentially, we want to expand it out to all legacy floating bus stops in the area, and also to then bring back any findings to Cabinet for review. You know, as a Cabinet member who's got responsibility for equalities and diversity as well, I want to make sure that North Tyneside is a place that people feel safe to live, and I fully agree that when Age UK and Disability UK are sort of raising concerns about these type of bus stops, it's absolutely worth us taking a moment and looking into it. So we're more than happy with the sort of essential idea, and we want to expand it out to all floating bus stops across the borough, which I'm sure everybody can agree is only a good thing, rather than just the one specific one. We're already working with various groups as well, just to kind of reassure residents. We're already working with groups that represent visually impaired and blind, and I've done that ever since I took on the role as well. I know that it's kind of been one of the priorities that the Mayor's been speaking to us about as well. So that's essentially what the amendment says.
It's a seconder for that motion. Yes, Councillor Graham, are you seconding the
Reserve the right
motion?
to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any comments on the amendment? Yes, Councillor Burns.
Thank you, Chair. Note with interest what Councillor Johnson said when moving the motion, but that's not, so moving the amendment, but that's not reflected in what is actually written. Yes, what she said is in there, but she hasn't mentioned that the amendment also removes any concern that council might have about this. It literally, the first change to our motion is to remove concern from it. It also then takes out all of the evidence regarding advocacy groups, including Age UK, Disability Rights UK, and incidents where pedestrians have been endangered by these designs. It's all stripped out of this motion entirely. I think the most, I suppose, ridiculous part of the amendment is the removal of the reference to the installation of a floating bus stop in Tynemouth, which is literally the entire point of the motion, is regarding the new floating bus stop in Tynemouth. That's been stripped out. And yes, there's talk of legacy bus stops on the back, but the motion was specifically brought to reference the new floating bus stop, which has been introduced following and since Age UK and the Disability Rights UK have raised their concerns.
Carry on, Councillor Bones, if you.
That's all, Chair.
All right, thank you very much. Yes, Councillor Paul Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. Actions out of motions are what really matter. The preamble doesn't, it's there. But what comes out of this is a review of all floating bus stops. And just for information else, if members are wondering where other floating bus stops are in the borough, floating bus stop is not just where you cross a cycle lane, it can be also where you cross a highway. An example of one would be in Councillor Johnson's Scargill's ward at Glanton Road at the end of the Coast Road, where you have to cross the highway to get to the bus stop. It's the only route there. So that would be considered a floating bus stop as well. There is a number of them around the rest of the borough as well. So while we're looking at the new type of floating bus stop, which is primarily a cycle lanes, I think it is worthwhile looking at all of them. This motion achieves exactly what the Conservative Party wanted to achieve. It looks at the junction at Tynemouth Longsands. It looks at floating bus stops. It looks at installing a CCTV camera, and it also works with other groups in the future. So what the Conservatives want to achieve, it achieves exactly that. It does remove some of the preamble in the motion, but it achieves exactly what the Conservatives want to do. If you want to play around and vote against it, that's fine, Chair, but it does what they want to do, so there should be support in this amendment and the motion.
Councillor Lily.
Sorry, Chair, can I just ask a question? What is the relevance of removing the preamble? It's just background information. Why take it out?
Motions, Chair.
I'll make a statement then. I think it's entirely wrong to take this out.
That's a legitimate comment, but the question's on. Yeah. You have the. Oh, sorry, Councillor Wallace.
Thank you, Chairman. I too don't understand why the evidence which has been listed in the original motion has been removed. Surely, if something is going to be reviewed, then it's important to take into account the evidence. And I would like to add to the list which has been referred to in the original motion, very recent research commissioned by the Guide Dogs for the Blind Association and conducted by Professor Tyler at UCL, a professor of civil engineering. That revealed that from his tests that guide dogs refuse to go near the floating bus stops because the difficulties that the guide dogs then face. The professor said, guide dogs are very particular about where they go. So when we say to them, can you go on this floating island bus stop? They say, no, they don't go because they are trained to look for the safest place. The professor described these floating bus stops as conflict zones because there are two moving objects, a cyclist and a pedestrian, heading for the same space. I would like all the evidence taken into account, both that listed within the original motion and this very recent research. Thank you.
So Wallace, further comments, anybody? Councillor Bartoli, you were the fourth, the right to reply on the original motion.
Thank you, Chair. I share the frustration of my colleagues on this side and Councillor Wallace. To remove the rationale and the reasoning behind the motion just seems like a pointless exercise, especially there's going to be a permanent record and this would provide a reason as to why we made these decisions today. I do agree with the decision to look at all legacy bus stops, and that could have been the ammonia amendment, and I'm sure we'd have not had to make any comment. We will support the amendment, but I just think it's frustrating that it seems to have been tinkered with in what seems like a pointless and perhaps negative way.
Thank you, Councillor Bartoli. Can we therefore move to the vote on the amendment, please?
Please open the vote.
Vote.
Members have all voted. I'll ask the vote to be closed. Please close the vote.
Thank you, Chair.
So can I now ask the mover or the seconder if they want to comment on the new substantive motion?
Thank you, Chair. Just to sort of add in as well, the reason why some of those references to the other news reports were taken out is because there is a very clear reference to the Transport for London report, which included all of those news reports. So it's essentially just repeating itself. So it was just a bit of tidying up because we had changed some of the wording at the beginning. That's literally all it was. But I'm happy to move to the vote.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Any further comments? Councillor Wallace.
Chairman, whilst the review is going on, I would like I wonder if the cabinet member could contact the various bus operators and ask if they could include on their buses using those floating stops an announcement to warn passengers as they alight that they are potentially facing oncoming traffic in the form of a cycle, and therefore must take extra care. This is done in London at floating bus stops, and I think it would be very helpful if it were to happen here as well.
Thank you, Councillor Wallace. So, any Councillor Graham?
I would be happy to liaise with the bus companies, and we know that they carry CCTV. So we will ask them for any footage as well.
Any further comments? And we therefore move to the vote on the substantive motion as it is now, please.
Please open the vote. All members have voted. I'll close the vote. Please close the vote.
Okay, that was 54 votes for, none against, no abstentions. Therefore, that motion is carried. Can we now move to motion 3, please? And I believe, Councillor Bones, you are moving this motion.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Since COVID hit way back in 2020, we've all had to adapt to, and one of the changes that we made was making appointments to visit the recycling centre in Howden. For some, this has worked out well, offering guaranteed appointments and reducing queuing, but for many others, it's been a real hassle. Our plan in this motion is simple. We want to introduce a hybrid system for the recycling centre. That means if you like having an appointment, you can still book one, but those who find it difficult to plan ahead or just want to drop by when it's convenient will have times when you can just turn up without an appointment. That way, everyone gets the flexibility that they need. We also know that residents in the northwest of North Tyneside have a long journey to Howden, which isn't fair or practical. That's why we're asking the Mayor to start talks with Newcastle City Council to give these residents access to the Brunswick tip. It's closer, more convenient, and just makes sense. Lastly, we need to tackle the issue of fly tipping head on. It's frustrating to see rubbish dumped in our borough, and we'd like the Mayor to look at securing funding for more mobile CCTV cameras to catch those responsible. By doing this, we can deter fly tippers and keep our streets cleaner. In a nutshell, our plan will make life easier for residents, help them get rid of their rubbish properly, and keep our borough tidy. I hope that everyone in the chamber can get behind this motion. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Bones, do you have a seconder for that motion?
Second and reserve the right.
Alpine, are there any comments on the motion from any members? Okay, there's no comments. You have the right to reply, Councillor Bones.
I hope the lack of comments on the motion.
Oh, Councillor Johnson. Oh, sorry. Oh, see.
Okay, thank you, Chair. It is. I guess just a couple of things really on this one. Number one, actually, the appointment system has proved very, very popular. And we are getting quite a lot of people saying that it's a good idea. They're quite pleased that they don't have to queue up when they go to the tip anymore to get in. It's proved very effective. Number two, it was actually the previous Tory government that made us keep appointment systems post-COVID. So that's part of the reason why we still got it as well. And number three, I mean, the suggestion that the off-peak hours are at a weekend is quite frankly just ridiculous. Obviously, it's one of the busiest times. So maybe if we're going to write this, we need to think a little bit more about the timings and the wording that we're using within the motion. They've proved really popular, so we're going to be voting against this motion.
So Carl Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think the appointment system was introduced very quickly and as a means to control COVID, but it did prove very popular. Anyone that previously, before the appointment system, went to the tip on a weekend, remember the tailbacks right off round the roundabout and right away back down towards East Howden. And you could wait for 30, 40 minutes at a time to get into the tip because of the sheer volume of people going. anyone that's used it recently knows that you can get an appointment within half an hour of your appointment. You can go on the website, get an appointment and go. There's now even more appointments available through the appointment system at the tip. So it is, you know, much easier now to get an appointment than it was in the past when we were limited during COVID. And it has proven hugely successful and very popular with residents. It's always going to be one of those where it's double-edged sword. You will have residents that hate the system, as well as you've got a hell of a lot of residents that really do appreciate the system. The hybrid system, as mentioned, wouldn't work because of the comment Councillor Johnson made. The off-peak times that the motion mentions are not the off-peak times. The peak times are weekends. That is when the tip is at its busiest. Sunday afternoon is the busiest time. Saturday and Sunday afternoon is the busiest time for the tip. The tip is busy during the week, but that is commercial waste going into a different entrance of the tip anyway. So that is, you know, when Councillor Bones put peak times, it might be for commercial waste, but not for tip ordinary members using it. Sure. In terms of the funding streams for additional mobile CCTV units, we're always looking at additional funding streams for mobile CCTV units, and we'll continue to do so. With regards to item 3 and Newcastle City Council have made an unequivocal no that they will not let us use Brunswick tip. It's not, as far as they're concerned, it's not up for debate. So as well as that, you know, we will have to look at all options in the northwest of the borough, and we will continue to look at all options in the borough. We would have amended this motion, but because we can't support abolishing the system to end the hybrid, we can't. Sorry, let me speak, Carl. We can't remove the appointment system without negating the motion. We can't amend the motion with regards to the other 2 points, so that's why we're going to have to vote against it. Because if we remove the mention of the appointment system, the hybrid system, we would be negating the motion because we are against removing that. We would have done something on the other 2 bits, but we can't do that without negating the chair, so we'd be voting against the motion.
Councillor Wallace.
Thank you, Chairman. I support this motion. I think it's very disappointing that the Cabinet member has indicated that the administration will not support it. If the off-peak hours that are suggested by way of example in the motion are not actually the off-peak hours, I would have thought that it wasn't beyond the wit of man to work out which ones are the off-peak hours and make that the time when one need not necessarily make an appointment. Clearly the records exist, and therefore a decision could be made as to which are the least busy times and make it so that no appointment is required then. As a ward councillor, I have as many residents who are against the appointment system as are in favour of it, and I thought that this motion would have suited all residents well and been a good compromise. Thank you.
Councillor Lilly.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of points. Because the government insisted the system remain in place, surely doesn't mean it can't be challenged. Whether agreement to change is made, surely there is a reason to challenge it. Secondly, I totally agree with Councillor Wallace that off-peak times can be identified. And just an observation, I actually tried to make an appointment on Monday, was told that there are only 2 appointments left on Monday afternoon. So I took one of these appointments. On arrival at the tip, I was the only car there. So either there are numerous non-attendees or the system just isn't working.
Thank you, Councillor Lilly. Right. Yes, Councillor Samuel.
Yes, thank you. I mean, I wasn't intending to speak in this debate, but I had to respond to that last one. The point was, I think that this was introduced during COVID as an emergency measure to make sure that the system keep working. But the feedback I have had from my residents after it took place was absolutely overwhelmingly in favour of it. It means, as you just said, you can turn up at your appointed time, face no queue, go straight in, dump your stuff there and move off, which makes it a much more successful way and more effective way of dealing with it. So, I mean, it's been overwhelmingly popular with residents. There are a few people that don't like it, but I think for the overwhelming majority of people, it works effectively well and we should keep it.
Councillor McAlpine.
Can I please ask the Cabinet member if she has any data to support the assertion that this is popular? Could that be shared with members, preferably in terms of representations into...
McAlpine.
Sorry.
It's not for asking questions, make comments on it. Actually. item rather than.
So I thought I was able to ask the cabinet member if she could, as a kind of follow-up action, make something available. Is that no?
Well, you can ask if Councillor Johnson is.
We just allowed a question from Councillor Watts. The announcements on the buses.
So can't hear particularly well. I don't know whether you sit closer to the microphone, but if you'd like to repeat the question.
Sorry. If the cabinet member has any data to support the assertion that this is a popular scheme, please could that be made available to members as a follow-up action?
Councillor Drummond, you.
Thanks, Chair. I mean, I've always found that the appointment system, as Councillor Samuel just said, without repeating, you know, you can turn up, dump your stuff in the way. But I don't think that the Conservatives over there have thought about the environmental impact. If they change the system back to the queuing system of all them cars parked down the 187 all the way down to Howden, running, it's quite an impact on the environment.
Councillor Graham.
Thank you, Chair. The resident survey found out that 97.9% of respondents rated their overall experiences using the site as good or very good. So our residents do like this. It was extremely dangerous having those cars backed up at that roundabout, and then all of the attendant junctions coming onto that roundabout, and the emissions standing there makes the pollution worse, the air pollution worse, and particulates. So we're very clear that it needs to stay, that residents do like it. Most people can get an appointment the same day, and it works 364 days of the year, 8 till 8. There are plenty of appointments. 800,000 have been carried out since the appointment system was put in place.
Thank you, Councillor Graham. Councillor Newman.
Thank you, Chair. Just like Councillor Samuel, I wasn't actually intending to come in on this, but I just want to say that I've been regularly using the site since I think I got my first house in 2007, and I remember the old system. I remember how difficult it was. I remember the queues. I remember how frustrating it was to be sat in that queue for nearly an hour trying to get into the tip. And we brought this system in, and it's efficient. I've never once had a problem getting an appointment. There may be an argument that maybe we should look at increasing the amount of appointments. I think that's something we can all look into. But as for replacing it to the old queuing system, I remember it. It's not very efficient. It can be very disastrous for the environment, and I think we should just vote against this motion because it's not practical.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Scargill.
Thank you. I thought it was interesting that Councillor Drummond mentioned the environmental impact. I think it's a complete joke that we've got a Labour council in North Tyneside, we've got a Labour council in Newcastle, and apparently they will not engage in any conversation about opening up Brunswick Tip. You've got people who live a stone's throw away from Brunswick Tip up in the northwest, who are having to travel all the way over to Howden to use the tip. And we've got councillors here who represent residents in the northwest, and I think those residents will be very, very disappointed that they're refusing to even ask the mayor to look at the feasibility of opening negotiations with Newcastle City Council.
Councillor Thirlway.
Thank you, Chair. I think with a hybrid system, you'd get the worst of both worlds. And I think if this appointment system was as terrible as some people are making out, we would have had this conversation a long time ago. And I think we should just go to the vote because we're just repeating ourselves.
Okay. Councillor Bones.
Thank you, Chair. Quite a lot to come back on there, I think. Just on Councillor Thirlway's point, I think no one on this side of the chamber was making out that the appointment system was terrible. In fact, in the speech that I made moving the motion, I opened with, for some, that the appointment system has worked out really well, offering guaranteed appointments and reducing queuing, but for many others, it's been a real hassle. We appreciate, for some people, the appointment system does work well, and that's why we're not saying get rid of the appointment system altogether. We're instead saying that there should be a hybrid system introduced. I take Councillor Johnson's point on the peak times at the tip. As Councillor Wallace said, they were very much included as examples. It's not the case that taking out the examples would have negated the motion. So that's an absolute nonsense. I think on Councillor Drummond's point about the environmental impact, you might want to have a think about the environmental impact of thousands of tonnes of waste being dumped across our borough because people can't get access to tips and because people have to travel from Seaton Burn all the way to Howden to get rid of it. And on that point, it sounds like the mayor's had a conversation with Councillor Kemp in Newcastle. Councillor Kemp said, "Oh, I'm not interested in talking about that," and the mayor is refusing to take it any further than that. There's not this motion asked the council to ask the mayor to open up a discussion with Newcastle about it, and instead of standing up for the residents in North Tyneside who can see Brunswick Tip out of their window yet still have to travel 10 miles to Howden, she is backing the Labour leadership in Newcastle over the residents in North Tyneside. I'm very, very disappointed and surprised, actually, that members opposite don't want to see more CCTV. They don't want to see a reduction in fly tipping. They don't want to see residents having an easier access to the tip, whether it be in Brunswick or in Howden. We will be supporting this amendment and we'll make sure your residents know if you vote against it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bones. Councillor John Johnson.
No, sorry, Chair, that was the right.
That was your, oh, that was your right to reply. Sorry, Councillor Johnson, I didn't realise it was his right to reply. Okay, we now need to go to the vote on that. Can I ask you to open the vote, please?
Please open the vote. Members, please vote now. Can we reset the vote, please? Can you stop and reset? Right, can members all vote again, please? Members are finished. I will close the vote. Please close.
We now move to motion number 4. I believe, Councillor Scargill, you are moving this motion.
Thank you, Chair. As we all know, our roads are in a terrible state, but Forsyth Street in New York is perhaps the worst. For decades, the council have neglected this area, and residents have now resorted to filling in some of the larger potholes themselves. Taxis refuse to drive up the street, and we've even installed warning signs about how dangerously uneven the road is. This motion asks the mayor to look at the possible ways to secure its resurfacing. I hope that councillors from across the borough can sympathise with these residents who pay huge council tax like the rest of us, but whose road is shrugged off by the council. Thank you.
Seconder for that motion. Yes, Councillor Gearbott.
I'd like to reiterate those points about the state of our roads. News about the £36 million backlog angered so many residents, and we've been now been told New York and Merton won't be getting any of the roads in the estate resurfaced this year. Instead of fixing the roads used by local people, the council have spent our money resurfacing High Flatworth, a road through the Tyne Tunnel estate, which is never busy and only used by public transport vehicles. We all know how bad the traffic is around the Tyne Tunnel at peak times, and this road would be really efficient in alleviating that congestion. If our money has been used to resurface this road, we should at least be allowed to use it. We're asking the mayor to simply look into opening the road to all motorists. From conversations with local residents, we know just how popular this idea is, and it would help to tackle the problems with traffic that we've been facing for years.
Councillor Botwood. Are there any comments or remarks regarding this motion? Councillor Carl Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. This might be some of the lengthiest legal implications I've ever seen of any motion brought to council. It also comes with the caveat that further work would need to be completed should the motion be agreed. With that said, Chair, the Labour Group can't support this because we open ourselves up to all sorts of legal implications should we support this. There are a number of roads, not just Forsyth Street, right around the borough that are unadopted and under private ownership, and their condition in some cases poor, just like Forsyth Street. Private roads are a national issue and not just experienced by North Tyneside, by all local authorities. Many roads in the borough are in a poor state of repair. Many unadopted roads in the borough are in a poor state of repair. And this privately owned road, the maintenance responsibility likely falls to the residents who front under the street. And that we understand that is a difficulty and it's a national issue. Unadopted roads are a national issue that need a solution nationally. If we select one street in this borough that's unadopted to be resurfaced, we'd likely get legal letters the following day from every other unadopted street in the borough saying, well, you've done that, why haven't you done mine? I think we would open ourselves up to a whole load of legal issues if we got to go down this route. I'm sure the Cabinet Member will be happy to talk to the New York and Merton councils about Forsyth Street and other streets and how we can move forward on this issue, but we certainly can't support a motion that could open us up to legal challenge and legal implications, Chair.
Councillor Johnson, Councillor Hannah Johnson.
Yeah, it just sort of as Councillor Johnson said, we can't agree this motion and then not have every single other unadopted road come to us to ask them to adopt it, and it would just cost way too much for the local authority to be able to then get those roads up to a standard that we would want them. I'm more than happy to have a meeting and a conversation with the New York and Merton councillors in particular about this particular case and what we might be able to do to help. But as Councillor John said, we're not going to be voting for this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Comments? Yes, Councillor Bones.
Thank you, Chair. Just as a further to both Councillor Johnson's question, speeches, didn't seem to be any mention of High Flatworth and opening that to public transport. I appreciate I can't ask a question at this specific moment in time, but I would just like to point that out and hope that any of the other Cabinet members who are sat near them or might know about it might be able to comment on such an issue.
Councillor Bones. Further comments on that? And with therefore, Councillor Scargill, you have the right to reply.
Well, I think the silence is telling. I think it's almost shameful that none of you would even speak about that. It's a very popular idea. The traffic around there is terrible at peak times, and that road is always empty. We're using our money to resurface it, and the public are not even allowed to use it. It's crazy. I think it's terrible that for years longer we're going to have no work being done for Forsyth Street. For decades, Forsyth Street has been neglected and left to get worse and worse and worse, and it will continue to deteriorate under this weak Labour leadership in North Tyneside. Our roads are in the worst state they've ever been in, a £36 million backlog. There is a reason why in this local election the Conservatives were gaining seats in places that they hadn't done before, and it's because of all the wrong decisions, like on the roads, that this Labour leadership is doing. I think it's really shameful that the Labour Council is going to vote against it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Scargill. Can we therefore move to the vote, please?
Please, can you open the vote? If all members have voted, I will close the vote. Please close the vote.
Seven for, 1 abstention and 46 against. So that motion falls. We now move on to motion 5. I believe Councillor Bartoli, you're moving this.
Thank you, Chair. The Office for Local Government was established last summer by the government to provide authoritative and accessible performance data aimed at supporting improvement in local government. Oflog measures councils across 27 categories in 5 main areas: waste management, corporate and finance, adult social care, planning and roads. The recent Oflog report, analysed and reported by The Times on the 30th of April this year, provided a comprehensive overview of council performances, highlighting both strengths and areas requiring urgent attention. As I'm sure many of you are aware, the report placed our council at a concerning 302nd out of 317 in its financial rankings and 235th overall. This rank is not just a number, it's a reflection of our financial health and ultimately the trust and confidence our residents place in us. What is particularly alarming is that only 15 councils ranked worse than us in the financial section, and six of these have already declared themselves bankrupt. This situation is very concerning and requires our immediate attention. Now, on a positive note, it's important to highlight that our planning department was ranked 4th in the country. This shows that we have the capability to excel and deliver outstanding services. However, the stark contrast between this achievement and our financial ranking underscores the urgency to address any financial shortcomings. We've seen the unedifying sight of leaders from poorer performing councils trying to discredit the data. For example, Wiltshire Council, which was ranked 297th overall and 188th for finance, has had its leaders attempt to undermine the credibility of the report. It's crucial to note that neither Oflog nor the relevant government department has stepped in to question or correct the data published by the Times. This silence from authoritative bodies only reinforces the legitimacy of the findings and highlights the importance of taking this data seriously. We owe it to our residents to ensure transparency and accountability. The low ranking has understandably raised concerns about our financial health. We must address these concerns head on and demonstrate our commitment to financial responsibility. We're therefore proposing we request the Section 151 officer to address the following points: an analysis of the reasons behind our low financial ranking in the Oflog report, including a comparison with similarly sized councils, and the identification of specific areas where our financial performance falls short. Second, an outline of the current measures in place to ensure the financial stability and sustainability of North Tyneside Council. And this should cover steps being taken to improve financial management and efficiency. Third, a thorough assessment of potential financial risks and the strategies in place to mitigate them. This should be accompanied by long-term financial strategies to prevent further declines in our performance. And fourth, the information on any external support or audits the Council is receiving or planning to ensure adherence to financial best practices. The report should include the outcomes of recent audits and steps taken in response to their recommendations. The requested report should be presented at the next Council meeting for discussion and questioning. Additionally, a summary of the findings should be made available to the public. This transparency is crucial for maintaining the trust of our residents. By supporting this motion, we demonstrate our commitment to addressing the challenges we face. We show our residents that we are not only aware of our shortcomings, but are also proactive in seeking solutions. I would urge all my colleagues to support this motion and work collectively to address these challenges, reassuring our community and ensure the financial health and stability of North Tyneside Council.
Thank you, Councillor Bartoli. Do you have a seconder?
Thanks, I'll second and reserve the right to speak. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Are there any comments? Councillor McMullen.
Yes, Chair, I have an amendment I'd like to move, please, if it's been passed.
Seconder for that amendment as well, just while we're waiting.
Second, reserve the right, Chair.
Councillor Johnson. Okay, Councillor McMullen, if you'd like to move your amendment, please.
Thank you. This motion is based on a news article which is behind a paywall, so many of our residents haven't seen it. This article is designed to grab headlines and is based on questionable mythology, which is widely being dismissed by the sector, including the Local Government Association. In fact, the chair of the Local Government Association summed this up when they said in a letter to the then Secretary of State, "Whilst I appreciate the league table was compiled by a media organisation, we are really concerned, very concerned, that neither Oflog nor DLUC stepped in swiftly to correct the inaccuracies and misleading content that the method used to compile these indicators into a league table is fundamentally flawed." The news article is based on data from the Office of Local Government, often referred to as Oflog. And for the majority of the finance data sets that they provide, we are largely performing around the average position, especially when we're compared to our statistical neighbours. so we do not agree with the conclusion reached within the Times article. It is, however, true that the financial position of the authority and of the whole sector is challenging, with the financial sustainability of a council being challenged with 470 million being removed from the budget, and also instability in funding, making longer-term decisions difficult. Turning on the recommendation, I feel that our current processes in place demonstrate in a public forum the range of financial analysis ongoing, such as the budget setting process, which came to Council in February, the preparation of budget through Cabinet, overview, scrutiny, coordination and finance subcommittee, and the budget study group, the performance and financial reports that go to Cabinet, and that aforementioned overview and scrutiny panel every 2 months, the risk register that goes to Cabinet and Audit Committee every 6 months, and both internal and external reports that go to every audit committee. And these are just the public reports, which are complemented by detailed budget and risk monitoring that also takes place continuously with our officers and Cabinet members. And on that basis, I move this amendment to the motion.
Are there any members wishing to make comment on the amended motion? Councillor Bones.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, based on the drafting of the amendment, it doesn't look like literacy is the strong point nor numeracy of the party opposite. Just to pick up on a couple of the points within the amendment, the amendment really does reek of sticking our head in the sand and pretending there's not a problem. Again, we are removing that council note with concern, the low ranking of North Tyneside Council within the Oflog report. It also goes on to blame the 8 members here for the financial instability of the council which they run, and has no mention of the government which they also now run within it. I think what we need the party opposite to do is start to take some responsibility for the decisions they have taken in office, and that's clearly not something they're willing to do with this amendment. When they talk about budgets that would, in the professional opinion of the 151 officer, brought the sustainability of the council into question, that is specifically in regards to reserves, which since then they have spent. Our reserves are the lowest level they have been, certainly since I joined the council. We are having to top up our reserves every year because they have recklessly spent them, and yet they're blaming us. Yet they are blaming us for proposing a budget which spent them on our residents' priorities. It's absolute nonsense, this amendment, Chair, and we won't be supporting it.
Thank you, Councillor Bones. Are there any further comments on the amendment? Right, Councillor Newman.
Thank you, Chair. I wasn't actually going to come in, but after hearing that, I think I'm going to have to. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous, the stuff I've just heard from the other side there. The Mayor, the Cabinet, the members, all of the officers in this authority have done everything they can over the past 10 years I've been involved to deal with what has been massive cuts to our budget. And to the members opposite, I'm going to ask you one thing. Where's your concern been for the past 10 years? The amount of motions we've put on this side of the chamber asking for more financial resource, more support from your government, which were ignored and not supported by you lot over there. And you have the nerve to come in and start criticising us now. Where's this concern been? Where's the concern? I myself, had 2 motions at this council. I'm pretty sure Councillor Samuel's done it, and the people can see through this, which is the very reason you've been rejected at the local level. It'd been rejected at the national level. So stop playing games, be serious, and let's get on with this.
Councillor Thirlaway.
It's object to being called a member of a lot. Surely we can use more civil language than that. Surely, having observed the last meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Newman.
Thank you, Chair. It's really incredible to be lectured about financial stability from the Conservative Party, the same Conservative Party that elected Liz Truss to be Prime Minister and then who crashed the economy. And then the same Conservative Party that threatened this council with bankruptcy only a few years ago. We shouldn't take this seriously. You're not a serious political party. If our residents didn't trust us to run this authority correctly, there wouldn't be 51 councillors sat here, and there wouldn't be 8 sat there. So just grow up.
Thank you, Councillor Thirlaway. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. £470 million cut from our budget since 2013. If you want to look at financial sustainability, you need to look no further. Remarkable from the opposition to now suddenly all of a sudden want to look at council finances when they didn't even put a budget forward in February. They now care, interestingly enough. Glenn Sanderson is the Conservative, the only actual Conservative elected to lead a council, because Glenn understands the issues. Glenn and Richard Wearmouth, I know Richard Wearmouth was like North Tyneside Conservatives, so much so he was at the count when they lost seats in North St Mary's at the election this year. They have a lower ranking than North Tyneside in this, and they are rightly saying it's an absolute sham, the Oflog reporting. Kevin Bentley, the leader of the Conservatives in local government, I spent some time with Kevin a day before the Councils Forum, the LGA Councils Forum. Kevin was saying how much of a sham Oflog is. It's not a Labour thing to say Oflog has been ridiculous. Every single political group on the LGA agrees that Oflog has been utterly shambolic. Chair, again, this report asking for things, as Councillor Mullins already highlighted, that are already available. But we were trying to be nice to the Conservatives by saying, actually, no, we'll just give you the report. We'll have the reports. You know, we haven't took away any of the reports that the Conservatives requested. They do exist. If they actually looked in papers, they might be able to see them. Chair, it's a staggering response from the opposition. I suggest we've moved to the vote because there's no more ground debate in this chamber, Chair.
Any further comments? Councillor Bartoli, you have the right to reply.
Thank you. I can't say I'm surprised by the response that this motion has provoked in the party opposite. It is, of course, disappointing that they've chosen to, first of all, blame the cuts from the Conservative government. These were cuts that were suffered by councils across the country, and the others are not choosing to blame those. And I think to try and blame the party opposite for not bringing forward budgets as somehow being the 15th worst performing council in the whole of the country is quite a stretch. This was a great opportunity, I think, actually, for the party opposite to take this report and demonstrate at the next meeting that it was wrong. And I think all they've done today by sticking their heads in the sand and denying it is prove that this report is worryingly correct, and they're not willing to address it. We won't be supporting any amendments.
Okay, we now go to the amendment, the vote on the amendment to the motion.
Please open the vote. All members have voted. I'll close the vote. Vote.
(46-48) against. So we now move to that becomes a substantive motion. We want to just go straight to the vote on the substantive motion. Okay.
Open the vote, please. Do I need to reset that vote, councillors? No. Everybody's voted. I'll close the vote.
Okay, that has been carried 46-4, 8 against. That motion is now carried, the amendment as amended. Yes, it is. We now, it's me. We now move to item 6, which is Chair's announcements. I do have some announcements to make this evening. As you will recall from the last council meeting, I raised the issue of the behaviour in council meetings, and I explained that I felt that the behaviour was below that level I would expect, and I wanted to see it improve. As part of that, I said we would invite the leaders of the two political groups and Councillor Wallace to have a meeting and discuss what I wanted and how we could explain what we are doing to improve this. I'm pleased to say that we did manage to have the meeting, and it was very productive, with everyone agreeing that behaviour must improve. As I said the last council meeting, I would be looking at what action can be taken if members behave in a way I feel is below what is acceptable. And you will see I have asked that some documents be included in tonight's papers explaining what action will be taken, and these documents will be attached to all future papers. As you will see, there are options available which can lead to members being removed from the meetings if their behaviour continues to be unacceptable despite being asked to stop. I don't ever want to see this happen, but I will take that action if it's needed. We are all elected here by our residents to represent them, and as such, we should all be very proud, but we all need to treat each other, members and officers, and the position of chair with respect and courtesy. We all politicians, so I will have strong views and passion will be understandable, which is acceptable, but I will ask that we keep those policies to policies and not to individual people. I feel tonight things have gone quite well, and while people got passionate at times, I think the behaviour was being acceptable, and I would say that the group leaders have agreed to have further meetings to look at how we can improve before the next council meeting, how we can improve the operation on things such as motions and making sure that things are run in a smoother way. As you know, I never like to end the comments on a down feeling. So I have been attending many meetings and presentations and things around the borough, different events, and it's been excellent. And I'm very proud of the residents of North Tyneside. Every time I meet them at whatever event, it's always a very joyous time. It's a great honour to be the chair. And I recently had a meeting with North Tyneside 2 Matters, which is a training programme for people who work in the nursery provision, both public, private schools and in childcare. And the feeling from those who I was presenting the awards to was excellent, obviously engendered by the officers who deliver the programme, but the individuals who had completed the training programme, they were just so pleased and so happy and so committed to what to do. I can be totally reassure members that the nursery provision we are delivering in North Tyneside is excellent. If that is the level of training that people are going through to do the service, I think it's excellent. So I'll just end it there and I'll thank you all for tonight. Thanks very much. Madam Mayor, thank you. Do you have any comments?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I do. I just want to point out, by the way, to be quite honest, that regardless of what the opposition think about my leadership, right, and make comments about being weak or not very strong or something like that, I don't think I'd be sitting here if I was so bad, having won 3 elections with increased majorities every time. And I think sometimes when you're being very personal, to me, it's unacceptable. I don't mind him criticising my work, but not me personally. Okay, I just want to take this opportunity now to thank some of our officers who've been amazing over the last year. I'm delighted to able to report that the North Shields Transport Hub has won the Low Carbon Project of the Year at the Construction News Awards, which took place on Friday, the 11th of July. The Transport Hub, which, as you all know, was opened in September 2023 and promotes cleaner travel by connecting bus, services, metro, taxis and cycle routes, and is one of the 10 finalists at this award. The scheme combines innovative design choices with low carbon materials and renewable energy sources to achieve net zero in its construction and operation. If you remember, there was a lot of publicity about this transport hub. I think you could recall that. But I'm just delighted that we had just not 1 award, but 3 awards coming on that transport hub. So well done to our officers and to those people here who took the decision to take that forward. In fact, one of the awards is the largest project award, Zero Carbon Award, and the most collaborative project ever. So well done. I'm sure you, Director of Regeneration, and Sandra will tell your colleagues in Net Zero of their thanks, of my thanks for getting us to these awards. North Tyneside is a great council, regardless of what the opposition think. And currently, I have to tell you that it is shortlisted for 2 more awards and the results will be in September of this year. So well done. Of course, this is part of the big regeneration program in North Shields. And I would just like to say, not only are we being recognised for our regeneration works, but our affordable housing developments in North Tyneside have scooped 2 awards. Thank you, Councillor Harrison. You need to tell your staff, because the director's not with us, how well we are and how proud we are of their work. North Tyneside Council, alongside local firm Husk, has claimed the Residential Project of the Year award at the Constructing Excellence North East Awards for its work on Palmouth Close in North Shields. The scheme took 52 garages and they were no longer in use, and as a result has become a target for antisocial behaviour and converted them into 8 new comfortable and affordable homes for residents. And the council's partnership with Husk has received further recognition for our Innovation in Housing Award at the MG Awards for this work, and at Bells Hills Close and the Backhill Avenue in Wall's End. Having become derelict, the garages had become a blight on the local landscape. But following this project, the site was transformed into bungalows. And I have to tell you, they have had 3 awards for their work in the housing in this council this year. And I'm extremely proud of what our staff turn out for us, to be quite honest. So for all the criticism we had about the transport hub, remember, many people are very happy about it, and we get a lot of acclaim for that work. So thank you to all our staff for carrying that out. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Now move on to item 8, questions by members of the council. We have 3 valid questions have been received from members of the council. Councillor Newman, would you like to ask your question, please?
I'll ask it, Chair, for you. Would the elected mayor give us an update on the progress made with the Veterans Walkway, which is planned to be installed near Spanish City in Whitley Bay?
Thank you. Councillor Carl Johnson, I believe you answered on that.
Thank you, Chair. The authority has been working with the National Veterans Walk charity to secure the installation of a Veterans Walkway around the cenotaph in Whitley Bay. We've assisted the design and work with the design of the walkway and are now working with the charity to promote the walkway, which will be a lasting tribute to proud service. Orders are now being taken for the granite plaques, which will be a lasting tribute to proud service. Names of those dedicated are added to the National Veterans Walk Roll of Honour. It'll be a wonderful tribute not only to the servicemen and women who have passed away, but the military personnel who continue to sacrifice so much for their country. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Do you have a supplementary question? Thank you, Councillor Newman. Question 2 is from Councillor Thirlway. Would you like to ask your question?
I'll ask my question. Would the elected mayor tell us how much funding North Tyneside Council has lost since she was first elected in 2013 due to cuts to local government imposed on us by the Conservative Party while in power?
Thank you. Councillor Carl Johnson, I believe you are. Thank you, Chair. Given the changes in the way funding have been provided to local government in the last decade, it is very different calculation needed to get this. So in 2013, the authority had a revenue budget of 177 million compared to 196 million in 2024. However, in 2024 prices, 2013 budget would have been over 240 million, representing a reduction of 44 million in the current financial year alone. That is before the increase in demands in council services are taken into account. Over that period, the sector has seen a shift towards funding coming from local sources. The government have passed the buck to the Conservative government passed the buck to local residents since 2013, with the amount of resources we collect from council tax going up from 40% to 64% in 2024. The main source of funding from central government is the Revenue Support Grant, which was reduced from 63 million in 2013 to 14 million in 2024, a reduction of 49 million or 78%. So had the levels of Revenue Support Grant been maintained at the same level, and the authority would have received an additional £470 million of funding since 2013. The Conservatives have cut £470 million from this authority since we came into power in 2013.
Councillor Johnson, do you have a supplementary question?
No, I don't, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Newman, question.
Thanks, Chair. I'll read it. North Tyneside Council has a proud track record of supporting our armed forces and veterans. Some local authorities take into account military compensation payments when working out benefits entitlement. Would the elected mayor confirm what the position is in North Tyneside Council?
Thank you, Chair. The council does have a very proud track record of supporting our armed forces and veterans. In regard to benefit entitlement, the government make provision for the first £10,000 of income for an award stablement pension, war widows pension, and the Armed Forces Compensation Scheme to be disregarded in any housing benefit and council tax support assessment, which the council is fully reimbursed for that. But at this council's discretion, we disregard any further amount in addition to the statutory amount. So I can confirm that the council has used our discretion and fully disregards war-related pensions and income from housing benefit and council tax support as follows: war stablement pension, war widowers pension, and income from Armed Forces Compensation Scheme. It is only with regard to provision for disabled facilities grant for adaptations where legislation does not currently provide for disregard of service and validity pensions. This appears to be because service and validity pensions are not awarded as a result of injuries or illness. However, the council is working to come up with a solution on that basis of our work around the Armed Forces Covenant, and we hope to report back with a positive solution soon. Also, I'd like to point out that thankfully no veteran in North Tyneside ever came up with the situation, so hopefully we've got it worked out by the time if we do get one in this situation. Also, I'd like to thank the British Legion for highlighting the issue through their campaigning. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Councillor Newman, do you have no supplementary? That therefore brings us the end of tonight's meet. Can I thank you all for your attendance? Much appreciated.